It's election day in the Netherlands, May 15th, 2002. As the Dutch line up to vote, one man's name is on everyone's lips: Pim Fortuyn, the charismatic, controversial, and proudly gay politician, who, according to a recent poll, could become the next Prime Minister. Pim Fortuyn has built a right-wing movement that's surging in popularity. It's nationalist, anti-immigration, and fiercely critical of Islam. All this is taking place less than a year after 9/11, and with the so-called war on terror in full swing. Tensions are so high in the Netherlands that the election was almost cancelled at the last minute. But now the Dutch are being handed their ballot papers, and there's his name in print: Pim Fortuyn. The only trouble is, Pim Fortuyn won't be able to take a seat in the parliament, because 9 days ago, he was assassinated.
A political assassination is the last thing the Dutch expected to be coping with, let alone the apparent cold-blooded slaying of their most colourful and controversial politician.
When police later released the name of the man who pulled the trigger, voters are confused. Why would this person be the assassin? Hello, my friend. I'm Aslan Pahari, and this is Assassins, the show where we unravel history's most shocking assassinations. And today, Pim Fortuyn. Bald head, tailored suits, silk handkerchiefs and ties. Opinionated, articulate, and humorous. A politician in one of Europe's most liberal countries who says out loud what many people think in private: that there are too many people migrating to the Netherlands, and that those who do come must assimilate to the new country's way of life. He makes his supporters feel okay about having these views. I mean, if you're going to vote for one of the most famous gay politicians in the world, you can't be prejudiced, can you? But Pim Fortuyn has his haters too. Lots of them. He's had a beer can thrown at his head, a cream pie smashed into his face, not to mention the constant abuse and death threats he receives from Dutch people who believe he's causing great harm to others. At least 10 of those death threats are described as direct and serious. One journalist said of him, "There is no disputing that the dapper, witty rabble-rouser has shaken the Netherlands' dusty political establishment to the core." And a left-leaning politician commented, "It's just a shame the shake-up had to come from him." The day of the assassination, the 6th of May 2002. Pim Fortuyn arrives at 3FM, a radio station not far from Amsterdam, just the latest stop in an exhausting schedule of election campaigning. He's agreed to appear on a music radio show for a casual chat with candidates. This suits Pim Fortuyn perfectly. Unlike many other politicians who turn their caution into blandness, he's a relaxed conversationalist. But he can be aggressive too, talking over people, not always listening. Today, however, he's in a good mood. The election campaign's going incredibly well for him. His support is growing. He's this close to becoming a member of parliament with real power. The radio host, Ruud de Wilde, asks him some pretty standard questions that allow Pim Fortuyn to repeat what he's been saying throughout the campaign. That migrants who currently live in the Netherlands can stay, but that no more should be let in. That this small country of 16 million people is full. But then, because it's a longer, more personal interview on a music station, Pim Fortuyn is asked something he's not expecting. How long do you think you will live? He pauses and then predicts he'll die when he's 86 or 87 years old. The interview winds up. They thank each other, and Pim Fortuyn leaves the studio and heads to the car park outside. A few people stand around chatting to each other as he walks towards his car, where his chauffeur, Hans Smolders, is waiting for him. Then, a man wearing a cap, sunglasses and carrying a backpack walks past him, stops and turns around. At the time of Pim Fortuyn's death, he's single and living alone in Rotterdam. Actually, that's not quite true. He isn't exactly alone. His butler, Herman, lives there too. And so do Kenneth Fortuyn and Carla Fortuyn. But they're not people, they're dogs. Pim Fortuyn's beloved King Charles Cavaliers. Kenneth and Carla are nearly as famous as he is. He adores them and they go almost everywhere with him. They also play a useful role in softening the image of the man who's demanding all migrants assimilate to his own ultra-tolerant brand of liberalism. One of his colleagues later reflects that Kenneth and Carla were, quote, his life since he didn't have a partner. He loved animals. There's no mistake about that. There's even a formal family portrait in his study of the three of them. In other antique-filled rooms are chandeliers, striking modern artworks, and a lot of images of nude men on the walls. Pim Fortuyn calls his home Palazzo di Pietro, in homage to his love for all things Italian. Indeed, he splits his time between the Netherlands and Italy. His second home is not far from Venice. Pim Fortuyn is not always safe when he steps outside the house, so his homes are fortresses.
It is dangerous for me without security in the big cities to walk on the street.
As a candidate, he's always been a bit more careful with his social life. But just a bit. This is the Netherlands, after all. Before politics, he said, quote, I was big into clubbing. At the end of the evening, I could frequently be found in gay bars. It was very pleasant, very nice, very normal. He tells a journalist he's still open to romance, despite the constant media spotlight. Pim Fortuyn believes there's an impossible divide between Islam and permissive Dutch culture, and he cites his own sexuality as evidence. He asks critics to name a Muslim country where homosexuality is legal. Compare that to the Netherlands, which just a year earlier became the first country in the world to legalize gay marriage. He believes Islam poses a threat to hard-fought rights of women and sexual minorities. Pim insists he's not racist, that his point is about culture, not race. To his critics, Pim Fortuyn's charm and laughter hide what's really beneath the surface: ignorance and prejudice. And they say, if anyone should be feeling fearful in Western countries right now, it's Muslims. Women having their headscarves pulled off in public, name-calling, hostility and discrimination are common. And it's not just happening to Muslims. If you have brown skin, or you cover your hair, or you're dressed a certain way, you could be fair game. Pim Fortuyn's political rise is happening in the middle of all of this, and many Dutch people cheer him on. When Volkert van der Graaf arrives at the radio station on the day of Pim Fortuyn's assassination, he hides for a couple of hours in some bushes. The radio station is in a semi-rural zone, with wooded areas and walking paths. At about 6 p.m, Pim Fortuyn leaves the studio with the host and the two walk down to the car park. The men make their farewells, and as Fortuyn is heading to his car, Volkert van der Graaf walks past him. He turns around and shoots him in the back and the head. Pim Fortuyn is killed instantly. Van der Graaf flees the scene. A well-known photojournalist who's in the car park to cover the election campaign hears the shooting and sees someone trying to escape on foot. He and a couple of others immediately race off after him. One of the men giving chase calls the police while he's running. The assassin later admits that he didn't really have a getaway plan, and not long later, he's captured by police near a petrol station. When news gets out, there's shock that a politician could be assassinated in the Netherlands. Police quickly rule out who isn't responsible. The assassin is not a Muslim. He's not a migrant. Instead, he's a secular Dutchman who spent his life trying to stop violence and suffering. Volkert van der Graaf is in his early 30s and works at a small environment group that he's co-founded, taking legal action against factory farming. He's an animal rights activist and longtime vegan. Van der Graaf has a partner, a young child, and no criminal record. He left work early on the afternoon of the assassination, telling colleagues he was going to make the most of the lovely weather. But stowed away in his car was a gun he'd bought illegally at a cafe. In court, Volkert van der Graaf argues that Pim Fortuyn was a danger to Dutch society and had to be stopped. That by gunning down the politician, he was protecting a vulnerable community being exploited for electoral gain. That he was defending Dutch tolerance by assassinating a powerful voice for intolerance. Volkert van der Graaf is sentenced to 18 years in jail. He ends up doing 11 years and is released in 2014.
Dutch Prime Minister Wim Kok has called for calm. He's declared the country's general election will go ahead as planned in 9 days' time, despite the killing.
Pim Fortuyn may be dead, but in death his voice is stronger than ever.
As predicted, the party led by Pim Fortuyn becomes part of a coalition government. They win 26 seats, making them the second largest party in the Dutch parliament. But without their famous leader, and with little political experience, infighting soon sets in, and the party falls apart. And within a few years, the Pim Fortuyn party disappears altogether. New right-wing populist parties soon take its place, but none led by anyone as colourful and charismatic as Pim Fortuyn. Pim Fortuyn's funeral is broadcast live on Dutch TV in May 2002. Thousands line the streets crying, cheering, singing and throwing flowers as the hearse carrying his white coffin drives past. Who knows what Pim Fortuyn would have made of this scene, but he did enjoy drama. He's laid to rest in the family crypt, but he doesn't get to rest for long. 10 weeks later, and there's a kind of funeral in reverse. Pim's body is exhumed, the whole thing broadcast live on TV across the Netherlands. While Pim Fortuyn's fresh grave is being dug up, people sing Amazing Grace in Dutch. His coffin is then transported to the airport, all the while the cameras roll. His freshly exhumed coffin stays at the airport overnight, and in the morning, it's loaded into a plane and takes off for Italy. Pim Fortuyn's wish was always to be buried near that small Italian village that he loved so much. His second and final marble tombstone features the Fortuyn family coat of arms, an image of the Madonna and a cross. Actually, Pim came up with it as a joke. The same is true of his antique-filled house. He wasn't an aristocrat with generations of wealth behind him. His family doesn't have their own coat of arms. It's a vibe he created. But written on his grave is a phrase in Latin that he was very serious about. Translated into English, it's something like, "We defend freedom of speech." A principle that mattered deeply to Pim Fortuyn. But did he worry about who was hurt in the process? You might be wondering what happened to Pim Fortuyn's little dogs. After the assassination, Kenneth and Carla Fortuyn stayed put in the Netherlands. They were being cared for by Fortuyn's butler, Herman Duckers. This was all made possible thanks to a wealthy admirer of Pim Fortuyn. The businessmen bought the house outright, including the dogs and the butler, so all three could remain living together in the antique-filled home in Rotterdam. Well, he didn't really purchase the butler, as the butler told one of the biggest newspapers in the Netherlands, quote, "I've nothing against being sold. I'm part of the furniture. But I don't expect them to sell me like they would sell a pile of bricks." Thank you for watching, my friend. Who's Australia's most eccentric politician? Let us know in the comments.